In high school physics, we learn that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The universe, like this figurine, is in a dynamic state of balance. If we push this figure backwards, it springs forward. And if we push it forward, it springs back. In short, it reacts diametrically to the external forces applied upon it. The education system here in the United States and abroad is like this figurine in that it too reacts to pressures applied from within and from without. Black studies in particular is the product of an external and internal reaction to the overwhelmingly European ethnocentricity that has characterized the American educational system. The system does not operate in isolation from other systems, but indeed interrelates with the economic, political, and social trends that have an effect upon this nation. Not too long ago, the Third World lay prone at the feet of European colonialism. While still oppressed, the Third World is showing signs of increased virility, vitality, and independence. This was illustrated by the expulsion of non-citizens from the Republic of Uganda, despite great pressure from England and other like-minded countries. It is illustrated by the fact that the Viet Cong are still a power to contend with, despite the fact that they have been matched against the most powerful army conservatism could muster. It is also illustrated, perhaps to a lesser extent, by the inception and growth of black studies in the United States. To give you an idea of what black education was like before the advent of black studies, let me quote Chancellor Williams, the author of Destruction of Black Civilizations. Even the revolt against colonialism and the worldwide challenge to white domination of the entire earth does not disturb these scholars of imperialism. They represent the lords of the earth, controlling all levels of education, science, and research. They control the educations of blacks throughout the world. With the rise and spread of independent African states and the Black Revolution in the United States, these scholarly representatives of white supremacy quickly reformed their techniques of mind control. They set up in Europe and America highly financed African studies associations, societies, institutes, history journals, and African periodicals of various kinds, all under complete white control and direction. Their African studies programs were pushed in the colleges and universities far ahead of the general demand for black studies. As the latter developed, black youth discovered that white professors not only had the field occupied, but were still teaching from their traditional ethnocentricity. In this continuing crusade to control the minds of the blacks through the nature of their education, the Americans and the British scholars lead. They are as ruthless and aggressive in their scholarly pursuits on race as their co-partners in seizing and controlling the wealth and peoples of other lands. Having established strong national and international African associations and journals, they even attempt to control research in Africa. They proceeded to flood the world with hastily thrown together African histories, pamphlets, and publications on just about every subject that could stand a black title. From their all-powerful position of strength, they continue to arrange and rearrange the world as it pleases them, naming and classifying peoples, places, and things as they will. In the United States, whites known to have any amount of Negro blood at all are classified as black, whereas in Africa, North Africa in particular, blacks with even the slightest amount of European blood are classified as Caucasian. This theme was rigorously applied in the history of Egypt. For example, when even unmixed black pharaohs became white, and the original black population was never referred to as Egyptians at all. Blotting the blacks out of history included replacing African names of persons, places, and things with Arabic and European names. One wave of the master's magic wand, and black Hamites and even Cushites, like their early Egyptian brothers, are no longer Africans. A few years back in Cheney, Washington, interested students, faculty, and others urged Eastern Washington State College to do something to meet the needs of its ethnic minorities, who, though realizing the social and economic benefits of a college education, were tired of being spoon-fed European culture, and who desired to learn more about life as it related to them. This was the ethnic offshoot of the cry for relevancy uttered by so many white students of the turbulent 60s. It has been an uphill struggle ever since. In 1972, Black Studies hired its first full-time administrator, and in 1973, it hired its first full-time professor. The college now offers 25 courses, 115 credits. Only a few years back, Dr. Miner taught the only black course at the college. Despite efforts to contain its expansion, Black Studies has been steadily progressing. We, however, must be aware of two perennial dangers. The first is apathy, and the second, overexpansion. In dealing with apathy, we must first realize the significance and importance of black studies to black people. The benefit of black studies to whites is all too obvious. For our survival as a nation is dependent upon the harmonious interrelationship of its people founded on mutual respect. To respect a people is to understand the nobler aspects of a people and their conditions. Secondly, a narrow-minded person is a small person with limited horizons. The world is broad, and in order to benefit from the wealth of its diversity, we must make a conscientious effort to learn about and appreciate the richness of the multi-ethnic reality of the world in which we live. No man is an island, and indeed, in this day and age, no people is an island unto itself. But let us make no pretense about it. Black Studies should, and does, at Eastern Washington State College, concern itself mainly with black students and the elevation of blacks in general. The significance and importance of black studies to black people rests on four basic tenets. And they are, first, that we as a people have a culture that is distinct from that of our neighbors, and we wish to preserve and exalt that culture. Secondly, we as a people are distinct physically from other peoples, and we wish to preserve this distinction. Thirdly, we as a people have made great contributions to world civilization, and we want these contributions to be known. Fourthly, we as a people are citizens of the United States of America, and as a people are entitled to a proportionate share of its wealth and its opportunities. Before the advent of black studies, when in our agony we lifted our faces towards heaven, did the God we pray to look like us, or did he look like the oppressor? Before the advent of black studies, when we read history books, did we read about the deeds of our ancestors, or did we read about the deeds of our exploiters? Before the advent of black studies, when we were sent to schools, were we taught about ourselves or about others? Were we taught from our perspective or from theirs? And so, we must constantly be on guard against apathy and naive individualism. Apathy is a cancer that can devour all the progress we have made to date. If we hold any of these four tenets to be true, we must support the Black Studies Initiative. We must also be on guard against so-called ethnic studies programs that reduce all third world peoples to a common denominator. While blacks have much in common with the American Indian, for example, we also have much in common with white Americans. In dealing with overexpansion, I must admit that we have been accused by well-meaning students here at Eastern Washington State College of moving too slow. I want to say here that we have been moving as rapidly as feasible. As the lyrics of a popular tune of the 50s puts it, it may take a little bit longer, but the web we weave will be stronger. One step at a time, boy. Just one step at a time. We're now offering 25 courses. We need your support to survive. Black Studies was originally designed with the interests of black students at heart. In order to expand and prosper, however, Black Studies must make an effort to induce white students to take black-oriented courses. Neither blacks nor whites are an island unto themselves. We must both, as peoples, recognize the worth of each other, both to each other and to ourselves. Everyone has something to bring to the ball game. We must all be made aware of what that something is. The lives of both blacks and whites will be the richer for it. Thank you.